What's up, everybody? Hey, Tom Laird here, host of the Advice from a Call Center Geek podcast and founder of Expivia. For exceptional contact center outsourcing, trust Expivia. We're fully AI-driven, as all of you know, and can handle voice, email, chat, and all of your digital channels. Our 600-seat USA contact center is expert in healthcare, financial services, insurance, tech support, retail, and more. Experts on the NICE CX1 platform, we ensure seamless customer experiences. DM me or visit expiviausa.com for more. Hello and welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Advice from a Call Center Geek, the Call Center Contact Center podcast. We try to improve the overall agent experience, improve your contact center, improve the customer experience. Oh, it's a lot of improving we're trying to do. My name is Tom Laird. I'm the CEO of Expivia Interaction Marketing. Expivia is a 500 to 600 seat call center outsourcer located here in stormy today. It's super stormy northwestern PA. Oh, how's everybody doing? I got a couple things to kind of talk to you about before we kind of get into our episode today, which I know I say I'm excited about every episode, but it's kind of fun to kind of get back to our kind of blocking and tackling of how we started the podcast with the episode that we're going to do today on 10 ways that you can really improve call center coaching, which I think we've learned and kind of evolved since COVID. So I want to, get into those things that I think is going to give you some, again, actionable items that you can take and improve some of your management strategies. Real quick, though, I want to just give a shout out on August 9th. It's an episode that you're not going to want to miss. Next episode, I'll kind of announce his name, but we're going to have, one of the industry leaders in speech analytics, real-time transcription. Really excited to have him on to really talk about the state of analytics, the technology behind it, and give a real kind of high level on some of the really, I guess, unique things that are happening with that technology. So really excited for that. But today, we are going to talk about one of the most underrated ways of improving culture in your organization. That's having a really set plan with your management team on how you are going to coach your associates, right? This is the one time where we have kind of a one-on-one interaction. And if those interactions go south, right, it kind of tears right at the kind of the heart of your culture. So not only are we trying to improve the associate at that moment, right, but if we do this thing right and there's a buy-in to how we coach, the whole organization changes, the whole atmosphere behind getting feedback, right, changes. Right. So, we don't want to make these things like a critique session, right? Or, someone that's just going to get beat up the whole time. I kind of liken it to, as you guys know, I also coach high school basketball. If I said to my kids every single day, you guys are terrible. What are you doing? Why can't you do this better? This is embarrassing, right? They would tone me out in 30 seconds, right? Understand if you have a supervisor or a manager that's their style of coaching. Because if it is, they're hurting your company, right? They're hurting your contact center, and that needs to be changed. And I think the way you change it is you talk to this. You talk about this to your management team. Make sure that they understand how you want coaching done. And if you are a supervisor and you really don't have a plan, your organization doesn't have a plan, this is something I think you can take, and this is going to make you a better contact center manager, right? So there's three things that we want to get out of any type of coaching. And I think we want to improve the performance at the time, right? We want to build a better company culture, and we want to enhance the quality of calls. So basically, we want to improve the customer experience by the quality. We want to improve our agents and how they're doing their job. And then we want to build a company culture within that. And you don't think of those three things when you think of coaching. Everybody thinks of coaching as, Jimmy or Janie just made a mistake and I need to go fix that. Well, I think you need to look at it more on the macro level. And if you look at it on the macro level, there's so many good things that can come out of coaching sessions, especially if your whole team's kind of on the same plan. So that's kind of what I want to get at to you today. And I have, kind of 10 steps for successful coaching in a contact center. Some of these have evolved. We've talked about some of them in the past before, but I think, if we kind of break these down again, this will give you at least the building blocks to create a plan for your organization. If you don't have a coaching plan, then, we need to make sure that starts to be put in place. Okay. So here we go. number one, and you guys know I've said this about 435,000 times, is praise publicly, but coach privately, right? So again, somebody achieves a perfect score on a QA form, make sure everybody knows. Celebrate it on the floor. Go to your team channel. If you have a Slack channel, that's the general channel, or if you're in Teams or however it is that you guys are communicating, and celebrate that. But if we do need to coach, if we need to provide feedback, we want to do that privately. Pull them off the floor if we're brick and mortar. If we're work from home, we're doing a separate, instant message, or we're doing a separate video chat just with that associate. I don't think we need to belabor that. You guys know how I feel about that. All right, number 2, and this is old school, like what you get taught like in high school or maybe even college, right? Is really sandwich the negative feedback with positive feedback. We don't ever want to start the session with something that's negative, right? I want them to come in and at least change their body energy, right, with something that is positive, right? So whatever they're doing well, let's kind of talk about that. It's even better if what they're doing well kind of relates to what they're doing wrong, right? So, hey, Susie, you're doing a great job on listening for, closing signals on your cross-sell and upsell. Like, I think, your stats are really, going in the right direction with that. Having said that though, before, we get to that point, there's some areas that I think we can kind of help you with that we can fix, because right now your handle time is 6 minutes and 23. We got to get that thing to 6 minutes. We put this all together. I think, you're really close to being one of our top agents, right? So again, we're not going in there saying that the reason you're here is because your handle time is 6 minutes and 24. It's unacceptable, and we need to be at 5 minutes and 55 seconds, right? If you do that, you're getting toned out. They're not listening to you. They're going to get defensive, right? So have this be more of a conversation, right? That you are leading, that you are in charge of, right? You have to make sure that, you're not going down a rabbit hole, which we're going to talk about here with an associate with excuses and things like that, right? But again, make sure that we're talking positive and negative. Don't make this thing something that everyone dreads. That's going to hurt your culture, right? Instead of having these sessions be something where they feel like you're actually trying to help them. Those are the best coaching sessions you can have. Now, we're going to talk about reps that just tone you out and could care less, right? That's going to be, I think, number 9 on our list. But we're not talking about that agent right now. We're talking about the agent that is, struggling with some aspect of her call, is probably trying. Maybe they're just forgetting to do a couple things. These are the types of things and how we want to approach those, because those aren't terrible things. Those are, ways that we can get better. But if you're super negative with it, those ways to get better turn into, that's how I do it. Whatever you're telling me is you're being mean to me and I don't want to hear it, right? And that's not what we want. All right. And number 3 and number 4, I think on my list kind of go together. They're kind of a ham and egg, right? Is make sure that you're being specific with what you're telling them, right? And then tie your performance to data, right? So, we don't want to just say things like, hey, and poor Janie and Jimmy, they're getting beat up here. So let's use Susie, right? Your average handle time increased this month, right? That's not specific. We didn't really tie any performance to data. That's just a general statement that they could be like, well, I had multiple days where, I was lower. It's too vague, right, for them to really grasp what the problem is, right? So I think, it sounds better when you say, hey, Janie, your average handle time actually increased 40% this month. It's now at 6 minutes and 23 seconds. So we got to just talk here about how we can get that down a little bit, because you are doing so well on other aspects of the call, right? So again, we got them. They now know that we know what the hell we're talking about, right? We understood the actual gravity. We've done our homework. We know exactly what the problem is, right? And if we kind of do that in a nice way, we can make sure that, they understand that this is the piece that I need to fix, not just this overall kind of, well, I just got to get my handle time down a little bit, right? No, let's give them an actual goal of what they need to do and give them a plan that we can do that with. So again, I think if you are not specific, and I know I use the word rabbit hole, but I think in the call center with working with so many people, if you make mistakes in communication, you can go far down the rabbit hole. We've all been there, where a rep they're really good at this, right? They talk on the phone and they talk to people and they try to get them to sell, or they try to sell things to people. They try to, understand problems. try to fix people who are mad. They're really good at this. So if you let them kind of take you down, sometimes they'll get you so confused of what the actual problem is that it just becomes a meaningless thing. And we definitely don't want that to happen. One of the other tips that I think really, really works well, and especially we've done this with work from home, is having your agents assess themselves, right? And that means literally either having them just listen and score their own call, or I like to do a calibration session with the supervisor and with the associate as well, right? So we can have the associate in one room, the supervisor in another room, or the QA person who's doing this, and have them score the calls, right? And I don't want to say 9 times out of 10, but I think probably about 8 times out of 10, the associate will understand what they were doing wrong when they're listening, right? Because it's kind of like looking at yourself in the mirror, right? And saying, okay, yeah, I hear what you're saying here. And I think that helps you, kind of have them understand that you're here to just give them some positive feedback, because this is kind of what you're hearing too, right? And if they're hearing it, you know that there's probably an issue. So again, don't just have them listen to calls, but have them score their calls as well. If you have a QA scoring system, I think that's super helpful. And then with that, really the number one thing, and again, this goes back to the basketball coaching analogies I keep using, is role play. And getting back to the basketball analogies that I use, right? It's kind of like you're scrimmaging, right? So it's one thing to do the drills, which is kind of like feedback, right? You're giving them feedback. They're kind of thinking about what they should have done, right? But then, let's put this into play, before we get back on the field or back out on the court. And, role play it both ways. The associate is the customer and you're the agent. You're the agent, the associate's the customer. Right? Make sure that they kind of understand where the customer could take what they're doing wrong, or how, what they're saying could be misconstrued, right? And I think it's really important that it really just cements the coaching that you're giving them if they take what you told them and they do it in a role-playing session. That's kind of how my brain works, and I think it's a great way to really reinforce culture, but also to really just to improve the overall skills of your agents. Number 7 is something that's a little bit unique, and we kind of found that it kind of works, but we try to at the end of a session, when we're done coaching, we try to do a little bit of servant leadership and just kind of talk to them real quick about, any roadblocks that they may be having with the program. That could be as easy as, hey, you know what, Susie, let me get you a new headset. That one looks beat up. This one should be a little bit more comfortable for you. Right? That stuff's really cool. Or, hey, I know that new workflow we just put into this, this call. How do you feel about the scripting? Asking them their opinion on some things. See if there's any feedback you can give. Make them feel like they're being heard. And you're going to get some awesome feedback as well, right? So, call center coaching isn't just about improving, one agent's performance. We're trying to improve the whole team. And I think if there's certain things that you can do to kind of interact with your agents, on that level, it really does improve. And when they see that you're taking the time for what they said, it improves your whole team and improves the room. All right. Number 8 is, making sure that, we're kind of giving goals. And again, I'm not giving you guys these 1 through 10 really aren't in any order. I probably should have just said that at the beginning. These are just some, I guess kind of random tips. So I'm not saying you got to do 1 first and 2 and 3 and 4. Just some of these will work in your organization, some won't. But, number 8, I think is really redefine their KPI goals, right? So redefine their goals for them. So I know I keep using handle time because I think, that's probably one of the most general things that everybody kind of gets. So again, if we're at 6 minutes and 50 seconds of handle time, we got to get this thing under 6 minutes. I'm not going to give them a goal of being at 5:45. We're going to talk about that goal of maybe, 6 minutes and 20 seconds, right? Let's work on that, right? So you're redefining the goals for that agent. And this is the same thing when you start the day or start your room in the morning, right? Controlling the first 30 minutes. These are the same goals that you're giving them, right? That can, again, reinforce what their goal is. So if you just say, hey, you got to be at 5:55, they're just going to be like, well, I can't. This is stupid, right? But understand that we're going to be working towards this. And in future coaching sessions, when you do your agent analysis, everything kind of comes together, right? And, that way they see that it's not going to be as difficult, right? And it's an attainable goal for them. So I think that that's a really important piece of this, especially if you're looking at somebody who's much newer, to your organization and maybe has a lot farther to go. Make sure that your goals are reflective of them. All right, now we get to number 9, which I kind of spoke about earlier. Sometimes this doesn't work, right? Sometimes you have a rep that just kind of tones you out, right? We've all been there, right? And I think, what happens there is we've just given about 8 different ways to kind of use the carrot and to make sure that we're trying to do everything we possibly can from a positive framework to improve our culture. Well, every once in a while, right, that's not going to happen. So this is kind of the last get out of jail free card after we've coached on one specific thing. And especially I lose my mind on effort and attitude, type things, right? So if somebody's being lazy, they just refuse to read the opening or end the call the proper way, asking for if there's anything else that you could do for the customer. They just, those little things kind of just fry me. So if we've talked to an associate 3 or 4 times on this, and really I would say 2 times on this, right? On the 3rd time, we're going to make sure that they understand that, there's expectations that they have and there will be consequences, right? I don't like to talk about consequences until we get to the end of the road, right? Of our coaching where they're just kind of ignoring. And then whatever your consequences are, this turns now from a coaching session to, this could turn into progressive discipline, right? I got to send you home. I got to 3-day you. I got to, take you off this program, put you over, whatever that is, right? So there's some things that, once you get to the end of the road, you do need to be a little bit firm. And I think it goes with number 10 is make sure that we're remonitoring all of your agents after they're coached. So if you remonitor, and if an associate is struggling with a concept, right, and they're working on it, obviously you just keep working with them, right? We're not going to get any stick out for that, right? That's probably shouldn't even use that term, but we're not going to do anything other than try to assist them. When you remonitor and they still don't do that disclosure at the end, or they don't, they're still not showing empathy, or whatever those things that you need in your contact center, right? That's when we're really going to start to look at number 9 and setting those expectations and the consequences. But I think it's really important. Our rule is 30 minutes after we coach, the rep gets monitored, they get scored, and we're focused on what we coach them on. And if they did it well, guess what we're going to do? We're going to celebrate that in the room, right? If they didn't and they're struggling and they're close with it, we might talk to them a little bit again and just try to reinforce. But I think it's really important that they know within 30 minutes that they're going to be remonitored. And I think that helps them really kind of focus on the task at hand that you kind of talk to them about. So again, I hope that this helps. Make sure that you have a plan for coaching, whether it's some of these things on my top 10 or some of the things that you have. Make sure that gets trained to your associates, to your supervisors, to your QA, to whoever those guys are, your trainers who are doing your coaching, to make sure that we all are on the same page with a plan and a technique in a way that we think can build culture, help reps, and hopefully improve the customer experience. Thanks, guys. I hope that adds some value to you. Hey, one quick last thing. If you're hanging out this long, that means you're probably into the podcast. If you are interested in coming on to the podcast, shoot me an email, tlaird@expivia.net, and we can have a conversation on that. Also, again, please check out our social media, right? So on LinkedIn, we have a call center tips and tactics. Love to see everybody join. We have a Facebook community for advice from a call center geek. And then if you're not following me on LinkedIn, you need to. I'm posting every single day on call center stuff to try to help. So again, just Tom Laird, hit me up on LinkedIn. Thanks, guys. Talk next week.